Hello, and welcome back to the MPR Workflow training tutorial. This is video 3 of 3. In this video, we will be discussing how to create manufacturing steps within an MPR and the multiple options for each step. Picking up where we left off on the last video, let's move directly into the MPR Instructions tab. Click Add New Record and it will bring you to a new screen. This is where you create a step. The first box asks you to enter a step number. The next one below this is selecting a part number. If a step isn't using inventory, then this won't be required. However, if it is using a material, then click the blue arrow. From here, you will be prompted to select materials from the materials listed in the MPR. The version box to the right will default to the most current specification version, but if you needed to change it, you could do so here. The next few options are checkboxes that will prompt other selections. These checkboxes create mandatory entries that need to be made by the operators before the BPR can be signed off and completed. Inventory will create a Use Inventory button within the BPR. A part number must be selected in order for this to work, because the system will deduct actual inventory from the inventory management at this point. By selecting the Equipment checkbox, you are prompted with a blank field along with a supplemental checkbox. Beginning with the blank box, by clicking on the blue arrow, you can select a piece of equipment listed within the Equipment tab of the MPR. If you lock a piece of equipment into a step, you can't change it or make alternate selections. For those clients who may not know which piece of equipment they are going to use any day, we suggest leaving this blank. By leaving it blank, the BPR step will have a drop-down arrow allowing the operator to select the piece of equipment they are going to use on that day. The next equipment checkbox is asking if you want to update the equipment log with this activity. This will create an equipment log button within the BPR where an operator can sign for an activity in the equipment log. By selecting the room checkbox, you are prompted with a blank field along with a supplemental checkbox. Beginning with the blank box, by clicking on the drop-down box, you can select a facility followed by a room listed in your setup folder. If you lock a facility or room into a step, you can't change it or make alternate selections. For those clients who may not know which facility or room they are going to use any day, we suggest leaving this blank. By leaving it blank, the BPR step will have a drop-down arrow allowing the operator to select the facility and room they will be performing their operations in. The next room checkbox is asking if you want to update the room log with this activity. This will create a room log button within the BPR where an operator can sign for an activity in the room log. The next two checkboxes, Performer and Verifier, make it a requirement for a performer to sign and if so desired, a verifier to sign behind them. This will timestamp the signatures along with the username of the individual for auditing purposes. The system does not prevent the verifier's signature to occur before the performer, so make sure personnel operating within the system understand the order of operations. Next is the Select Document tab. Here you can choose to upload a document from the DMS system directly to a step if you desire. The next sections, Action along with Target, are ingrained with the checkbox Auto-populate Bill of Quantity materials on manufacturing instructions, along with the Inventory checkbox. If you mark this checkbox and select the Inventory button, a few things will happen automatically. Beginning with Action, you'll notice in blue text that it states measure X amount of part Y. The amount to measure out is pulled from the quantity per batch you've entered in the bill of materials. The target, min, and max are also autofilled based on the amounts you've listed in the bill of materials for this part. If you do not mark this checkbox, you can enter independent amounts of each. This variability is useful for processes that aren't always the same. The action box is where you will describe what it is you want to be completed at this step. The text box has a large character limit, so feel free to be as detailed as desired. Target, min, and max are what you expect to be done on this step in numerical terminology. The min and max values do play a role in limiting advance or completion of a step. If this is material based and operators do not meet the minimum or exceed the maximum, then the system will present an error in the BPR stating one has occurred and that a correction needs to be made. Range is identical to the min and max, but it is where you list the total in plus or minus values from the target. Attachment allows you to add an attachment directly to a step if you desire. Now confirm the step after you've made all the selections and entries to your satisfaction. You will continue going through this process until you've completed the master production record. Now let's talk about the options presented within the screen after creating a step. The pencil icon you see allows you to go back into a step and edit anything you deem necessary. The magnifying glass allows you to just view how the step was set up. Passing over the next icon, the trash icon allows you to delete the step completely. The arrow with the dashes is a specific field which creates dynamic fields within the BPR step. Dynamic fields, in the simplest explanation, is a way to create supplemental data fields for operators to capture contemporaneous data that is necessary for the step's completion. We will go over this in much more detail in the advanced topics video called Dynamic Fields. For now, I will show you how to add them and how it connects with the print icon present as well. In the public demo, we have a variety of dynamic fields already created, but for your instance, you would need to create a new record. Let's add 3 dynamic fields and show how you can complete a calculation using these. Let's add 2 weights and determine their average. When creating a formula, follow the same structure as one would in Excel to perform calculations. Once the formula is set up and you want to test it in action, click Test Dynamic Field and enter some values. Now that we know how it works, let's get back to the instruction page. Let's go over to the print icon. If you notice, this is mostly blank. However, by clicking on Add Dynamic Field, we can add a dynamic field attribute from the step and create a label to place on a product if necessary. Now that we have briefly seen what dynamic fields can do, let's complete the MPR. To approve an MPR, click on the MPR Approvals tab. Remember, the only people that will be listed here are those you have selected as MPR approvers for the project. So you notice there are 2 blue boxes you can sign at this point, beginning with Reject. If one person signs the reject, it will completely lock the MPR and it can no longer be edited, and it is a dead document within a system. If you want, you can copy it and pick up where you left off, but it will give it a new MPR number, so it is considered a new document. If one person signs the Approve tab, it will lock the document. It just prevents editing and is in a view-only status. If upon review someone realized something was wrong, they could sign the Unlock tab. This will reset the approvals process, but it will allow you to edit the steps and make any corrections necessary. Once all approvers have signed, the MPR becomes effective and now can be used to create BPRs. To finish up the video, let's discuss a few of the icons in the master production screen. Beginning with the print icon, you can print a paper copy of everything detailed in the MPR. Copy allows you to copy an entire MPR but allows you to change the product name. This does create a new MPR number. Version up is like copy, but a difference here is you are maintaining the same product that was originally a part of the MPR. This would be useful if updating documentation, materials, equipment, or manufacturing steps. This does not create a new MPR number, it simply changes the version number of the original MPR. Scale up will only be an option if you have selected scale on the MPR along with the scale checkbox for materials within the MPR. This is like version up, but this will ask you to change the theoretical batch yield, and anything meant to scale will be scaled based off the new theoretical batch yield. This will create a new MPR number. The last option is to create a BPR. By clicking on this tab, it will take you to a BPR cover page where you can enter some credentials for the specific batch. It will copy all settings from the MPR into the BPR and will allow data entry. We will go into more detail during our BPR workflow training videos. With that, we come to the end of the MPR workflow training videos. Please continue on to the BPR workflow training videos where we would cover requisitioning materials, placing them into inventory, approving their usage, creating a BPR, completing a BPR, and adding finished goods to inventory. Thank you and have a wonderful day.